The wait is finally over. It's time to jump into Half-Life 2. Crowbar only. Let's get straight into it. Now, it's been around 9 months since I finished the original Half-Life with just the crowbar, and that video definitely blew up. I can't thank you all enough for tuning in, and that's the reason why I also played through Blue Shift and Opposing Force with just their melee weapons for the rest of that year. Yeah, I promise I didn't do those just to delay starting this one. So here we are, ready for Half-Life 2 with only the crowbar. And I have to say, out of all the challenges here, this is the hardest one I've faced so far. I had to learn a lot about the NPC patterns and exploits in the game just to make this happen, and overcame many obstacles for this challenge. Yeah, I need to go outside. Half-Life 2 is quite literally my favourite game of all time. Can you tell that I love Half-Life? It's a timeless classic. Released in 2004, it revolutionised the gaming genre with its addicting gameplay and beautiful graphics for its time. It also pioneered the monumental leap forward in physics for video games through the use of the Source engine, not to mention the peak story that you start to piece together on your own, and little secrets that you discover upon multiple playthroughs. With a powerful arsenal of weapons and the use of the gravity gun that takes full advantage of the Source engine, it's a love letter to gamers. But with just the crowbar, yeah, you'll see. The rules are simple. No weapons picked up can be used unless it's required to progress. I kept this rule in from my previous challenge and will explain the reason why in just a second. But every single kill through this challenge has to be executed solely from the crowbar. Half-Life 2 also has a couple of chapters dedicated to vehicle sections. I will be allowed to use them to traverse through the level faster, but I cannot use the mounted weapons on them, such as the machine gun on the airboat or the Tau cannon on the buggy. Allies such as Alex, Barney, and the rebels are allowed to be used as backup. Any speedrunning glitches or AI bugs are allowed to be exploited to their full potential. In comparison to Half-Life 1, Half-Life 2 has many more scripted sequences in its gameplay, so this rule will allow me to get around those without using the intended weapons. And you know the gist by now, we're going into this on hard mode, so let's get things started right away.
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine.
Welcome. Welcome to City 17. You have chosen, or been chosen, to relocate to one of our finest remaining urban centers. I thought so much of City 17 that I elected to establish my administration here, in the citadel so thoughtfully provided by our benefactors. I've been proud to call City 17 my home. And so, whether you are here to stay or passing through on your way to parts unknown, welcome to City 17. It's safer here.
The right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world. So wake up, Mr. Freeman. Wake up and smell the ashes.
I woke up from stasis to a very familiar voice and was spat straight back into Earth. Things have changed last time I was here. The worst part was that I didn't even have my crowbar. All I could do was lob props at the Combine. I soon found myself stumbling into Barney and meeting Kleiner in the process, being tasked to get straight into his lab, and so started my journey.
Concerned citizen. Thank you for writing, concerned.
Yeah, I think that's gonna take a lot more than just the crowbar though. So after being caught goofing around by the Combine, luckily I was saved by Alex and we started making our way to Kleiner's lab.
Funny you showing up on this day in particular.
After making it to Kleiner's lab, I finally got my HEV suit back.
Well Gordon. I see your HEV suit still fits you like a glove. At least the glove parts do.
You calling me fat? Once the teleporter messed up thanks to Lamar, I found my way outside and was gifted my one and only.
Oh, and before I forget, I think you dropped this back in Black Mesa. Good luck out there, buddy. You're gonna need it.
Oh yeah, we are so back. I destroyed the annoying scanner to get some extra shields and simply ran past all the upcoming gunfire.
I love y'all. I'm gonna go up on the look.
Root Kanal is where the real challenge begins, as you're meant to work with the crowbar, pistol, and later on the SMG. I started off by replenishing my faithful 1 HP at the health station and dealt with the Metro Cop with the pistol, whilst he was trying to commit police brutality, then easily dealt with the one with the stun stick. In all honesty, the majority of this chapter didn't really pose a threat here, since the game is very generous to give you a bunch of health and suit armor early on, and besides, it is the first chapter in the game where you actually have real combat. Making it to the section with the turret, I easily whacked the 2 Metro Cops. Now since I couldn't use the turret, I wasted no time in breaking the bit of wood that was in my way and just swiftly moved on. The next firefight spawned an actual challenge. It is impossible to break down the supporting wooden planks to take down this bridge. So what I did was grab a barrel and waited for the Metro Cops to miss their shots so that they could light it up. Once it exploded, I dove headfirst into a barnacle. I rushed past everything else, solved a physics puzzle because I remembered that I did study MIT, and then evaded the chopper before running into Manhack Matt. We immediately started bonding and fought off the manhacks. He decided to stay in his little hideout. I then moved on, but remembered that there was some supplies that I needed from his little hideout and went straight back. I went on a manhack killing spree to avenge my fallen friend. The next fight definitely chunked a fair bit of my health since the Metro Cops had the SMGs now, but I managed to survive with a fair bit of health. The rest of the chapter had me running through pretty much everything, sparing no time in fighting the Metro Cops since the payoff just wasn't worth it. It was here that I also realised that it was quite easy taking out the combined soldiers in general. When you're up close and personal and smacking away at them, they just kind of stand there and stare helplessly into your soul, trying to process if they should flinch or just continue attacking. Getting into the large room with the explosive barrels, I quickly raised the water levels and took care of the manhacks. I got through the rest of the chapter with ease, refusing to entertain the headcrabs and zombies since they were slow as it was. Then finally got to my airboat. Ma'am? There's a zombie coming your way. Yeah, I think you gotta move. Okay, that ain't my problem. Thanks for the airboat. Water Hazard was simple in concept. All I had to do was play as a complete pacifist whilst on the airboat. That means no running over. So when the Metro cops start appearing out of the dropships, I would come to a complete halt if they were right in front of me and slowly shimmy my way through them with the airboat, taking it slow and steady no matter how much health I would lose. Traversing into the small outpost was alright at the beginning. All I had to do was take my time with eliminating the Metro cops and progressed forwards. I made sure to carry this explosive barrel with me. This will come in handy in about a second, because I used one of the last Metro cops to ignite the barrel and throw it towards the fence, which triggered the other explosions and made a pathway for me, because, you know, I can't shoot the barrels. I then started making my escape, cornering the Metro cops at the side of this door so I could easily take them out. After this, heading back into the airboat was definitely a struggle. Dealing with this many Metro cops in a small room was a problem. Hiding behind props to try and get an opening in front of them just wasn't working. So I had another idea. It involved sprinting past all of them and trapping myself in a smaller room to have them walk straight into it so that I could get the jump on them. The last two Metro cops just wouldn't budge, no matter how enticing I looked with my small amount of health. I ended up just running past them. I quickly slapped the last Metro cop out of my way and got straight back into the airboat. I cheekily swerved around the enemies that would come from the top of the bridges and then realised that I had nowhere near a good amount of health to get past this APC unit and its rockets. I simply headed into this small spot for the Lambda locator just to get a little bit more health so I could get past this whole section. It wasn't much, but it will definitely do. Gathering just a little bit more health and armor, I made it to arguably one of the most difficult sections in Water Hazard for this challenge. It started off okay. This large open space was definitely the issue. Now without a gun, there was just simply no way I could close off the distance without tanking a load of health whilst getting to the top. Thankfully, with the health I had and some good RNG to not be blocked off by any of the Metro cops here, I simply sprinted through the oncoming gunfire and found a trusty corner to stick by. took me a couple of tries to get the best outcome of this encounter, but I managed to clear every single threat out, of course with a chopper looming over me the entire time. I sneaked underneath this box and shoved my crowbar up this guy's ass and then swiftly dealt with the other two, surviving the encounter with just 9 HP to spare. I then stocked up on some health and made it to the small control tower and managed to open up the gates, hastily making it back to the airboat before heading out. At this point, all I did was try my best in outrunning the chopper and getting health and armor whenever it was possible. Eventually stumbling into a rebel hideout, I assumed that these guys didn't have an inkling of a clue that I was saving humanity with just the crowbar, and went about to install a bloody gun on my airboat whilst I was distracted.
The Freeman will accept this weapon or suffer greatly on the road ahead.
Alright, bet. To prove that Vortigon out of sheer spite, I didn't fire a single bullet from this gun whilst getting past all the traps that the Combine set up for me. Excuse me, coming through. I beg your pardon. To get past this section with the 2 APC trucks, I genuinely thought it was impossible, since there seemed to be no way to ignite the barrels without firing a bullet. What I did was simply crouch next to the barrels and have one of the APCs fire their rocket to ignite them, and just continued forwards once the container doors were blown off. Now it was time for the final boss fight of this chapter. I, Gordon Freeman, versus a chopper. Yeah, I don't even know how to explain this. It seems as if each and every time you get off the airboat, the chopper will resort to just gunning you down with an infinite amount of ammo. The only strategy that seemed plausible, at least for me, was to be as quick as possible and head straight for the valve that lifts the door. But it was no easy task. I died countless times, getting close each and every single time. But thanks to my incredible speed and determination, I managed to pull it off, surviving with a decent amount of health. I quickly hopped back into my airboat and made my way to the lever that supports the dam's door, also spotting the G-Man just phasing out of existence. This was the final step to finish this chapter, and oh man, it was definitely a struggle. Every single time I thought I was making progress, I was met with a red screen. Even my final attempt was cutting it very close. Hopping into the airboat with just 8 HP, I immediately started searching for the nearest supply crates with health and armor. 2 HP, and with just 15 HP, I jumped the ramp, escaping the gunfire from the chopper. Finally, I made it to the end of this chapter. Oh my god. You know, I actually took a break and just sat here for a minute, taking in the scenery. This game is beautiful. After recollecting my thoughts and the choices in life that led me to attempt this stupid challenge, I pressed forwards, meeting up with my boy Eli in Black Mesa East and giving him the cleanest dap in human history. Heading out into the scrapyard, I was gifted the gravity gun.
The primary trigger emits a charge. You can punch stuff and send it flying. The secondary trigger lets you grab things. You can throw them with the primary. You can also pull stuff over from a distance. Try grabbing those barrels from that ledge up there. Alright, see if you can stack some stuff to climb up here. Alright.
Playing catch with dog didn't end well.
Good throw. Nice catch. Gordon. Let's try something else. Dog, throw something bigger. No, dog. No, boy. Down.
Suddenly, the Combine invaded, and I was forced to go through Ravenholm.
Gordon, you need to get out of here.
Wanna guess what the actual challenge of this chapter was? It wasn't the tutorial with the gravity gun. No, it was this bloody locker. I just couldn't whack it out of the way. Usually you're supposed to use the gravity gun, but since I couldn't do that, I had to find another way. I refused to let a single locker foil this run, so I simply prop climbed over it. Prop climbing just involves mashing the use key and spamming the jump button whilst you're on top of an object. You just have to make sure that it's pressed up against the wall. It is a speedrunning strat, so we're all good so far. So with the little amount of health I had, I made my way through Ravenholm, doing my best to survive the zombie infested town. If I'm being honest, the first half of this chapter was perfectly fine. The headcrab zombies are slow, and it's fairly easy to sprint past them. I made sure not to kill a single one with the traps either. The issue arose when the fast zombies were introduced. Just one alone can chip away at your health in a matter of seconds, so it was best not to linger around them for too long.
Here, I have a more suitable gun for you. You'll need it. Catch!
Oh, nah, I'm good, bro. The audacity of this man to give me a shotgun. Some people, man. Remember what I said about just how dangerous the fast zombies are? Well, when they're traveling in packs, there's literally no way I'm surviving that whilst taking them all on. I started to fortify my defenses and make a little base that prevented them from getting to me. And oh man, was I literally shitting it. I thought I was safe once the elevator arrived, but the slow journey had me dreading the end. Bolting past through the rest of the town, I did what I could to preserve as much health before making it to the roof. Now all I had to do was wait for the cart that Father Grigori was sending out to me in a small space, with all these fast zombies climbing up the pipes. This was my biggest nightmare come to life. It seemed impossible to try and keep myself alive during this sequence. But then I remembered, I've played Call of Duty Zombies. I started training them, circling around the bunch whilst the cart slowly made its way. This was no easy task and required incredibly precise hops around them. Yeah, I'm joking, it didn't. Through sheer luck, I managed to make my exit with just 7 HP to my name. And yeah, I'm just gonna stick with that. I never want to do that again. Getting to the end of the town was easier than I thought, and I managed to do it on my first go, simply letting Grigori take care of the threats and back him up when he needed it. Getting to the end of the gate, I said my farewells to my brother as he decided to walk into the fire. Yeah, I guess he found that shit hilarious. Making it out of the mines also wasn't as bad as I thought. I then tried my best in dodging and weaving the snipers. Took out a couple of Combine soldiers before sprinting straight into a gunfight between them and the rebels, and kinda broke the sequence.
Who's hurt?
Winston's been hit.
Patch him up and get him to the back as soon as he's stable. Gordon, Freeman. It's incredible you made it. We've been getting communication from Alex. I'll see if I can reach her again. Follow me.
Now we can cruise through the coast at From the get-go, I encountered my first obstacle. Getting into the buggy, it is lifted from a crane using a magnet. The magnet fails, which causes the car to be dropped on its back. You're supposed to use the gravity gun here to knock it back upright, but with just the crowbar, I had to get creative. I used some barrels and placed them where the car would fall. The reason why I did this is to just mess up the collision between the two objects. It took a couple of tries, all of them being unsuccessful. On my final attempt, I glitched out the collision so badly that the car just started doing donuts on its side for a bit. It seemed as if all hope was lost, and I was just about to reload a save before this miracle happened. Definitely wasn't expecting that, but it works. The drive through the coast was alright, besides the abundance of antlions crawling out of the sand and trying to purposely be splattered. I managed to traverse through the coast without harming a single one of them, because I'm not a monster, just an environmentalist. I only stopped for one abandoned outpost that had the poison headcrab zombie to just stock up on some health. Other than that, it was a chill drive. I was just making sure that I wasn't running over a single enemy through my journey. Making it to the rebel hideout, they were expecting a gunship at any moment, with the infamous Colonel Cobbage asking for my assistance. I politely declined and went on my way. There's no way for the rebels to open up the gate before the gunship fight, so I just stacked some props to get over it. Unfortunately, I did have to say goodbye to the car. It was fun while it lasted. It didn't seem bad at first. When getting to the crane, I simply chilled in the water for a bit so the antlions would drown. I knew that getting past the combined soldiers was going to be a bit of a hassle, so I used this small ship to get the drop on them and attack the shotgunner first. Luckily, there were a surprising amount of supply crates and health just lying around for me to make such a risky maneuver. I ignored the rest, got to the crane and just used it to lower the bridge. Now there were a lot of combined soldiers in my way, and taking out the lot of them definitely required strategic thinking. Yep, I just ran past them. There's no way I'm dealing with all that. Now, the upcoming bridge was what I was dreading this entire run. The incredibly large gap made it look impossible to get over without the car. Now, just putting this out there, I have absolutely no experience of any speedrunning strats, but watching through some old Half-Life 2 speedruns, I saw that they were using a mechanic known as prop surfing, a strategy which involves spamming the use key and the jump button to basically surf over large portions of the map for an easier skip. I gave this a try and it just wasn't working to my favor at all, and I believe it was patched a couple of years ago, so yeah. This sucks. I was very close to being out of options. I was beginning to lose hope until I discovered the saving grace that was backwards bunny hopping. As someone who's never done this before, it was revolutionary in my eyes. Backwards bunny hopping involves having the player sprint backwards before jumping and holding the crouch key. All they have to do is basically hit the jump button each and every time they hit the ground. This grants an insane amount of momentum and movement speed. To make the strategy reliable, I suggest binding the jump key to the scroll wheel, just so you've got that consistency. The reason why it's called backwards bunny hopping, I think they patched the forwards one. And so I ditched the wooden board and started practicing for a bit, putting minutes into this god-gifted strategy before I finally pulled it off. And man, you can see the footage here. I was actually proud of myself. With this new godlike ability, I didn't have to deal with the stress of approaching gunfights or ambushes, and just embarrassingly bunny hopped away. Now, there was a barrier that was stopping me to get past the bridge, so I had to go through the usual path, which was underneath it. I somehow managed to stop the trigger that spawned in the Combine soldiers by simply sticking to the side of the hill and then made my way beneath the bridge. Everything was going okay. That's until I got to the second half of the bridge. It did take a couple of tries here to get past the Combine soldiers, but through the use of some scummy saving and loading, I managed to be satisfied with losing as little health as I possibly could. I then used a single can of paint to completely mess up their defenses. Now all I had to do was just head back with a raging gunship on my tail. In all fairness, it was easy. I bolted back and took care of the Combine soldiers that forgot to spawn in earlier. I even met a friend along the way. I guess he realized the sheer power of a sleep-deprived man with just a crowbar and understood his ways. We sat down for a moment, having some coffee together. That was before I told him that Dr. Breen was mid, and then he suddenly struck a nerve. So unfortunately, I had to put him down. I then walked beside a train and headed into the dark tunnel.
Hold still, Laszlo. You there! Stop where you are! Stay on the rocks! Idiot!
Oh, sorry, mate. The beginning of this chapter had always scared me. An abandoned, seamlessly never-ending tunnel that was crowded with dormant headcrab zombies. I manifested my childhood and basically hid in a small room, waiting to get the drop on the zombies. Once that was done, I bunny hopped through the rest of the Combine outpost, grabbing some health and armor where I could. There was literally no point in stopping and taking them all out. Trust me, I tried, and it just didn't work.
Hey, over here! Hey, over here! Hey, over here!
As for the defense sequence, the fight ends with a gunship fight. I just said fight twice. And the game prevents you from dropping to the cliffside to progress. There's an invisible barrier. What I did was grab this barrel and use it to slowly shimmy my way up this hill to get out of bounds. Simply watching the rebels struggle against the Combine. As heart-wrenching as it was to see, I was on a mission. After walking past some two-dimensional trees, I dropped down and went a little back to load the next level trigger.
You there! Stop where you are! Stay on the rocks! Idiot!
Getting to the antline guard was a piece of cake, but challenging it to a fight with only the crowbar was something else. It was easy to circle around it and whack it, but the constant rate of antlines that was spawning would completely mess up my flow. Eventually, I beat the antline guard and picked up the bug bait, only to find out that it was impossible to get past this tutorial without throwing it. So you can imagine my face when I found out that I didn't have to fight the antline guard. It seemed as if this was the end. There just seemed to be no way I could progress without using the bug bait. Yeah, now you saw the length of this video. We're going to hop out of bounds again. Just before the boss fight, what you want to do is grab a prop and prop climb up this wall. From here, you can shimmy up to the edge of this hill. Now what I would recommend is to hug this wall whilst you're moving to the side of it until you get to this small bit of land. Now you're able to clip into the cliff. Then you want to use this line as a reference for the cliff and walk along it. Here's where I got stuck. It looks as if you're supposed to make an impossible jump here, which I tried a handful of times and failed. What you're supposed to do here is follow the line. It is invisible, but trust me, it is there. You just can't see it on the side that you're on. Yeah, I discovered this the hard way. You want to make this precise jump here and then hop over to the other side before heading deeper. Now the cost of going out of bounds in this game is the fact that you will stumble across things that you're not supposed to see. Things that are unexplainable and just plain weird. The amount of precision you need for this final landing is actually ridiculous. I was either stuck against the wall and even found myself beneath the entire map at one point. I eventually figured out that you can land fairly far out and there is a small opening for you to phase back into existence and continue on with the game. The antlines must have been so impressed through my sheer willpower of refusing to throw their mama's sack and decided to follow me. I bunny hopped my way through the sands and essentially just hid whilst they would deal with the enemies for me. I took out all the soldiers on the ground and stumbled into one of the biggest problems in this challenge. In order to progress, you have to take down a gunship that crashes into a wall for you to sneak into to get into Nova Prospekt. At first, I tried going out of bounds, and it just wasn't working with what I was limited to. Now there is a way to get around this with a method called prop glitching. It involves jumping straight into a prop that teleports you beyond it. It's used in many world record speedruns of the game. Unfortunately, I was unable to perform this, spending an entire day trying to do it after countless YouTube videos and Reddit threads, but it just wasn't working for me, so I had to resort to using the RPG and taking down the gunship. Now, I'm not going to count this into the challenge since it is technically possible, I just couldn't do it, so I won't count it for the question of this video. But what I will include at the end of this video is what I did and what's possible, just to make it fair on both sides. I lost more health on taking down the gunship than to do the skip anyway. Nova Prospekt is a rather interesting chapter that I didn't think was possible with just the crowbar, but it definitely is. I stocked up on some health before completely ignoring the antlion guard. It was very nice of him to give me a wave goodbye with his massive beak thing. I used the antlions to my advantage when taking out the soldiers for the rest of the chapter. Each and every encounter had me hiding for the majority of it, whilst the antlions would just deal with the combine guards on the road. This section with the prison block was an absolute nightmare. It was honestly a miracle that I got past it. The antlines just couldn't make it to the soldiers before being completely mowed down by the one on the turret, and there was just too many for me to handle. What I did was grab this explosive barrel and toss it near the Combine guard that was manning the turret. With 10 HP, this was definitely risky business. I simply hid in a cell block and they started running away before the barrel blew up, taking some of them out. My guess was that they accidentally shot it and lit it up, or tossed a grenade a bit too close. Regardless, I was back to just letting the antlines do all the heavy lifting, sitting back and whacking any guards when it was absolutely necessary.
Indispensable augmentation to the Combine Overwatch. They will have to earn their privilege. I'm sure I don't have to remind.
With the fight at the foundry, I simply took a back seat and let the antlines take care of the Combine and simply stocked up on some health and armor, avoiding the poison headcrab zombie as well. I just trapped him in his little dark room. I managed to get through the rest of the chapter with little to no struggle, having the antlines deal with the two shotgunners close to the end of the chapter as well. Yeah, forget that. Unfortunately, I did get stuck here, but the antline guard was very kind to help me out. So overall, it was a solid chapter with just the crowbar, and yeah, it was surprisingly fun. The beginning of Entanglement went okay. To give Alex some cover, I made a mini build with these barrels. I did my best in making sure that she wasn't killed in the process, but it did pose as quite a challenge here, especially when she's diving headfirst into the Combine shotgunners. I then went on a small solo mission. using my tried and trusty method of camping at the corner of a doorway and whacking the soldiers to death. Now there was absolutely no way I was getting past this force field without using a grenade to blow up the plug, but who said it had to be mine? I waited for the last combined soldier in this portion to lob a grenade before picking it up and tossing it at the plug. This disabled the force field so I could progress. Inside the control room, I whacked the combined soldiers to death before the infamous turret section, the first of many on this chapter. On my first run, I played the game how it was meant to be, setting up the turrets and just having them shred through the guards, taking out any as they made it up the stairs. This was successful, but I wasn't satisfied. Instead, I reloaded a save just before the fight, and I didn't set up the turrets at all, because where's the fun in getting things your way without any effort? In all honesty, it wasn't as bad as I thought. I set up a little base and waited for the soldiers to come, but they were oddly attracted to these turrets, to the point where they were happily blowing themselves up for the cause. It was impossible to get to the last soldier at the top here. I couldn't prop climb my way up with the limited props, or even bunny hop my way to him before he could take me out. So unfortunately, I had to use a turret, surviving this battle with just 15 HP. Alex arrived shortly after before sending me on another solo mission. I shoved the barrels into the electrified water and made my way to another holdout section whilst waiting for Alex. Yeah, I seriously didn't want to do this a second time. Luckily, if you stack these boxes and climb up to the upper part of the map, a total of 2 combined soldiers will spawn in throughout the entire holdout section.
We must have hit a motherload of soldiers. They're coming in from everywhere.
This was basically the longest staring contest in gaming history. I eventually got tired and took them out. Yeah, I couldn't have them catch me blinking. And hey, perfect time for Alex to arrive again. Now the best strategy for this part is to leave Alex just at the doorway so she doesn't die right off the bat. Wait for the soldiers to come and just cheese them out. After clearing the room and getting into some drama.
Enough of your bullshit!
What is Half-Life even about? We have another defense sequence. Woohoo, yippee, my favorites. I fucking love this. Yeah, this one was definitely the hardest. What I would recommend is to stick to the middle of the map. The majority of the Combine coming from the furthest part of the map will be attracted to the turrets. I prioritized keeping Alex alive, so I took out the soldiers that had set their sights on her. I then hopped into the teleporter, made it to Kleiner's lab, and was told to find Barney.
Yes, Gordon, please, do go on. Lamar is extremely wary of your crowbar.
Finally, someone gets it. Thank you, Lamar, you're the MVP of this challenge. Starting off my journey to reach Barney, Dog had a very fun time playing with his food. He then went off on his little adventure. I then came across a couple of rebels who were more than happy to assist me on this challenge. How nice of them. Getting to the hopper section, I couldn't progress without using the gravity gun. So I simply prop climbed over the fence and started sprinting through the rest of the chapter.
It has come to my attention collaborator, as if such a term were shameful. I ask you what...
With the loyal rebels by my side, it was quite easy to use them as backup when encountering the metro cops.
Cover me while I reload.
It was definitely a struggle getting past these corridors, as I was relying on the rebels' AI in most of the fights, but eventually made my way to the tunnels. And yeah, I do have to admit, it was definitely intense.
Gordon Freeman? It is you, isn't it? Give me a minute. Blast charge and blow this open.
I simply waited for the medic to blow up the bit of debris, swinging my crowbar for dear life just to get these manhacks out of the way. Once it was blown up, I did my best in avoiding the toxic waste, but it didn't go all too well. Luckily, there was a decent amount of health at the end of it. With an all-out war occurring, I was doing everything in my power to get through it as quick as I could.
Okay, come across.
there were way too many soldiers to just sit around and take out individually. And yeah, if you're watching the footage here, you can see that I was literally zooming past everything in order to just get away from the chaos. I managed to survive that entire ordeal with just 52 HP. In all honesty, I was surprised, but actually happy that I got through that. I met up with Alex again, and the both of us took out the soldiers in our path.
Okay, this is it. You take that door, I'll take this one. Ready when you are. Gordon! It'll take me a few minutes to expose the core, then I'll need you to hit it with a burst from the gravity gun. In the meantime, watch my back.
Yeah, you can have fun with that. I'm just going to grab this, just quickly prop climb over here, yep, and then, yeah, just glitch out of the map. Visually, it looks as if I'm cooked, but I can assure you that everything was alright. It seems as if the gravity gun is required to unlock this door, but if you cheekily edge out this window, you can easily whack the metal bar with the crowbar and let the blessed source engine physics do its work. I just straight up darted past the rest of this, letting the Combine and zombies duke it out before heading towards the end of this chapter. And my god, was this the biggest struggle of this entire challenge. I'm not joking, I'm actually being for real this time. This one part of the entire game really tested my sanity. Just to put it simply, you're supposed to use this incredibly slow platform and maneuver around multiple catwalks to get to the end of this chapter. Sounds easy on paper if there wasn't multiple Combine soldiers shooting at you at every single angle. Yeah, I was stuck on this part for like a good hour. But to cut this short, what I simply did was use the barrels for my protection and simply hid in this small space, waiting for the Combine soldiers to lob their grenades at me and throw them straight back. So to prevent the Combine elites from spawning, I used some props to climb towards the exit of the door, but it doesn't open unless you hit that certain trigger. I simply climbed up the ladder, grabbed some health and sprinted straight into the next chapter. I genuinely wouldn't wish for my worst enemies to play through this section with just the crowbar. After dodging and weaving the snipers and running past all the zombies, I finally made it to Barney, but I don't think he understood the purpose of this challenge. I was trying to explain it to him, but inevitably got sniped in the process.
Look at the grenades, would ya?
Yeah, he can make it on his own. I trust him. I grabbed some boxes and made it over the gate. And hey, look at that, I knew I could trust him. I grabbed this explosive barrel before moving forwards. The reason for this is the fact that there is another force field at the end of the map. The plug can only be affected by an explosive or the gravity gun. And so I took the barrel to the end of the map. But this wasn't an easy task, since Barney was constantly getting shot up, or the Combine would deliver an extra shot to the lit barrel which would blow me up on the spot. Yeah, I was stuck on this for quite a while there. Eventually, with perfect timing, distance and a Barney, I threw the lit barrel next to the plug and could finally progress after the explosion. Then stocked up on some health and moved forwards. Now once again, in my run, it was impossible to get past this door without using a grenade. The turret on the floor here is unfortunately immune to damage from the crowbar, and so I shamelessly had to use my own grenade. Surprisingly, there is a way to get past this door through the use of prop glitching again, but I was unable to do that. You can actually skip this entire museum section of the game through just prop glitching, and yeah, this basically gives you the opportunity to just skip past everything here. But unfortunately on my run, I couldn't do it. and so I used a single grenade to get past that turret, and then had to use the gravity gun for these energy balls. But I can't preface this enough, it is possible to get past this section with prop glitching. So once again, I'm not going to count it in when answering the question.
Dr. Freeman, wait! We'll come with you.
Got one!
Might as well start with this one. Hey, you've got Eli's gravity gun. Try giving those generators a jolt. See if you can shake them up a bit.
Take this med kit.
Like that! Get down!
Here, have a med kit.
Like that!
This section of the chapter was decent, until the ambush. With just one rebel, Barney, and a trusty crowbar, it was almost impossible to get past this, as Barney just kept dying. Instead, what I did was run straight into the last room, knock out the energy ball with the gravity gun, and get Barney to follow, slowly cheesing out the Combine soldiers through the doorway. The hardest part was trying to balance out the Combine soldiers' aggro on Barney and myself. Too much aggro on myself got me killed, and too much aggro on Barney got him killed, which of course results in an instant fail. It took a number of tries, a lot of saving in convenient spots before getting through this battle with just the crowbar, and I was genuinely surprised over the fact that it worked. I just had to give it a lot of tries. I was just reloading the save after dying, and I guess I got lucky here. Now all I had to do was take out the rest of the Combine soldiers. It wasn't that much of a hassle compared to the rest of this chapter, so I was all good. I then grabbed some health and made it to the rooftops, skipping the gunship fight as well as the dropship by just using a prop to jump over this wall. I summoned the bridge and ran past the Combine, entering this fight with the Striders at just 5 HP. It's honestly a miracle how I've made it this far. I quickly rushed past all the Striders and bunny hopped backwards just to get to the end of the map. Now this part was rather confusing. Within this tunnel you're supposed to be outrunning a Strider, but I believe with the speed I was going at from backwards bunny hopping, I think I broke it. My guess is that it was focusing on an invisible NPC. The Strider's supposed to knock down a pillar to make a path for you, but since it was tweaking out, I seriously couldn't do anything. What I did was grab the barrel, made it on top of the rubble, and made it my life mission too. I realized that bunny hopping past through the majority of this was the way forwards. I managed to also skip an entire fight and delay the spawning of some Combine soldiers. I fought my way through the dilapidated buildings during the all-out war and was genuinely surprised over the fact that I was in a good spot with a good amount of health. And that's definitely due to the abundance of health and armor that the game gifts you with during this sequence. As for the Strider boss battles, yeah, I couldn't get through this by regular means, as there is an invisible barrier just before the horse. and the Striders will insta-kill you if you try to progress without taking them out. So the only possible solution was prop glitching, but once again, yeah, I just couldn't do it and had to resort to using the RPG to take out the Striders. But once again, it's possible, so yeah, I'm not gonna count it. And the challenge is still on. I mean, we're almost at the end now. I then met up with Dog and Barney, and similar to the first game, Barney had a message for me.
And if you see Dr. Breen, tell him I said.
Yeah, trust me bro, that is me deep into this challenge. On paper, this chapter sounds like it will be the run killer, as there is quite literally a sequence that incinerates every single weapon you've gotten up until this point into nothing but dust. That includes the crowbar. I spent so long trying to keep the crowbar from vanishing into thin air, but I always ended up achieving half of the solution. In one instance, the game would crash on me after attaining it, and in the other, I would be able to grab it in time, but would not be able to use it. It was never in my inventory, it was just there. At this point, all hope seemed lost. I should pack my bags and disappear off this platform for another year. It seemed as if the only way to keep the crowbar was to use cheats. And so that's exactly what I did and beat the game. The end. Thanks for watching guys, I appreciate that. Which is what I would have went with had I uploaded this video any earlier. You see, whilst I was editing this video, I decided to give this another shot and to see if there truly was a way to keep the crowbar. Then an idea came to mind. Throughout this entire run, I was playing on the 20th anniversary edition for Half-Life 2, which got me thinking, maybe a way to keep the crowbar was patched out in later versions. And so, I reverted back to the Steam Legacy edition to see if it was any different. After spending about half an hour messing about with it, I was beginning to give up and stick with what I previously recorded, but I started experimenting at different angles and finally managed to grab it without losing it in my arsenal or the game crashing. I basically backed myself against the barrier and grabbed it. This only works in the Steam Legacy edition of Half-Life 2. I've tried it on the modern version and it doesn't work, but definitely prove me wrong in the comments if it does. Finally, it was time to head to Breen's headquarters. This chapter wasn't as bad as I thought. You're supposed to feel incredibly overpowered with the supercharged gravity gun, so the game throws a ton of soldiers at you. I only took them out with the crowbar when it was absolutely necessary, and used the supercharged gravity gun to grab those balls. Yeah, I can't believe I just said that. To grab the energy balls and take down the force fields. There was no other way around this, and it was mandatory to progress, so I will allow it. This elevator part was really the only challenge I had. Clearing all of the soldiers on the floor below wasn't bad, it was the elevator ride upwards, as there is literally no cover. This was all luck. I had no real strategy besides running around in circles and hoping not to lose a significant amount of health. On top of that, sometimes the lift just randomly stops at points, so you basically have to tank it the entire way. But thankfully, I had just enough health to get past it and quickly recharged up, because I definitely needed it for the next part. I began backwards bunny hopping past the final stand, completely ignoring the soldiers as well as the Strider before switching to the gravity gun and getting rid of that force field. This was definitely the most rewarded I felt during this challenge. I completely went against the game's intended way of playing and also got to keep the crowbar. I wish I could say that I did the same for...
Come on, Gordon. We've got to get out of here. Maybe we still have...
Hey, it's me, Goku! I heard you're pretty strong.
Unfortunately, for the final chapter of Half-Life 2, Dark Energy, the game completely strips the crowbar away from you. I wish there was some kind of way to glitch it in like the previous chapter, but it's inevitably taken out of your arsenal the moment you enter the pod, and so I had to play the chapter as intended. However, to spice things up, I refused to eliminate a single Combine soldier using the supercharged gravity gun, simply ignoring them. I was moving so fast in this chapter that all of the audio was overlapping each other, which was pretty funny.
Some which are essentially impossible. I don't warn you this was possibly hope to achieve apart from your own annihilation. Are you still with us, Dr. Freeman? Not for much longer, I think. If only you had harnessed your...
Getting to the top, I used the energy balls to take out Breen and finally ended the game. The G-Man had a word with me and decided to go on his merry way to God knows where, leaving me in stasis once more. And that concludes the end of this challenge. We finally completed it. Oh. Yeah, we'll see about this one. Yeah, let me know if I should torture myself through this. So that answers the question. Can you beat Half-Life 2 using only the crowbar? No. But technically yes. Kinda. Objectively, if you exploit every single speedrunning strat under the sun, you can reach our Benefactors with just the crowbar. So that's like 90% of the game. In my playthrough, I used the rocket launchers to take out the gunships in Sandtraps, a turret to take out a single soldier in Entanglement, the gravity gun and rocket launcher in Follow Freeman, and the supercharged gravity gun in our Benefactors and Dark Energy. But I can also make the argument that of course these were required to progress, which does follow in suit with Rule 1. So yeah, let me know if you enjoyed that. I also wanted to thank KZ Matman, as he did this challenge a couple of years prior. His run definitely helped in some of the tricky parts of this challenge. And yeah, if you want to try this challenge out for yourself, definitely have a look at giving it a try. For me, it was a mix of fulfillment as well as frustration, but I did get another reason to play Half-Life 2, so I'm happy about that. I do thank you all for watching, and if you've made it to the end of this video, I'm going to focus a lot more on this channel and definitely stick to being more consistent with my uploads. This year was definitely hectic, but I promise to be on top of it going forwards. Once again, thanks a lot for tuning in, and let me know what you'd like to see next. I'll see you guys in the next one.